Hey guys, this is Chess Coach Aaron. I'm here to do another video of hard puzzle positions. I'm going to do 5. Every time I do the series, I'll be doing 5 hard puzzles. But you can also say that they're positions. Not everyone is a true puzzle by itself. Sometimes it's simply find the best move or best idea. It's not just a checkmate of 3 or 4 or like a puzzle position. Some are quick puzzles, some are a little bit more in depth. The best way to deal with these, we're going to do 5 of them, is every time we talk about one and then pause it. Try your best, set it up on your board and get your hands on the pieces. There is actually 1 or 2, sometimes I'll say use maybe no board, or at first just try to look at it without using a board. But for the most part, most of these are better with a board. All right, let's go ahead and get to that first position. All right, we have our first position, and you always take a quick look and look at the differences, the strengths and weaknesses. What is it about the position that you're thinking? Then that's always the first thing you do. Let's take a quick look at this first position. It is white to move and find the best ideas. Find the best move. And you can already see the difference, which is white has not developed their bishop, but black has yet to castle. And this bishop is indeed pinned. So it'd be nice to maybe pile on that pin. How can we do that? Well, you got the bishop over here, g5, right? Maybe you can get some queen piling on type of idea. Or maybe over to e3. So you could try to pile on the pin. That is an idea. I mean, pretty much from black's perspective, if they could get castled without obviously losing any material, perhaps they're going to be safe. E6 might actually be a key square, because if they can back up with their bishop, not worrying about the pinned bishop on e7 instead, and get safely castled, maybe they'll be all right. Everything else is equal. Equal pawns, equal pieces, except for light square bishop versus the knight. So in truth, the longer the game goes, maybe the bishop will show its value versus the knight. But again, white to move, and let's see if I find a move. We're going to pause it. Going to give you guys 5 seconds whenever we go to pause the video. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's start talking. So indeed, we want to be able to perhaps pile on the pin, maybe keep them from castling. And obviously we want to try to get an active, good position. I mean, white for the moment has the safe king and the more active pieces, except perhaps for these two, right? All right, well, we could start to look at simple ideas like bishop g5. So if we throw the bishop on g5, piling on the pin, unfortunately there's a simple answer, which is just f6, attacking this bishop. All right. How can we keep on piling on the pin and save our bishop? Well, you could try queen e3. I mean, not just piling on the pin, but we're threatening checkmate. That would force queen back, and that does protect his bishop. All right, we have to worry about our bishop, so we back up. And now they play king f7, and notice f6 covers these 2 squares, which makes this knight not as effective. Our bishop will have to come around to put more pressure. They get this rook out. It's almost like they didn't need the castle, because f6 and king f7 get the rook out, and while white still has a little more activity, they have the isolated pawn, and it's a pretty roughly equal game. All right, so bishop g5, I don't think quite does it. We could try, of course, other ideas like queen here, but the same ideas will happen. They can always go queen d7, which supports everything, and then bishop e6, which blocks, and then bishop is safe, blocks the work down the e line, and hopefully they can castle. So we have to look further. Well, we do have rook going to e5. And again, that would attack both things. We keep the pin, and we're doing the threat. But what do we have to follow it up with? Such as rook e5, and again, queen will back up. And queen will protect here. And how do they continue? And f6 is coming to attack our rook. And again, their king can go to f7. And once this rook comes out, perhaps they're all safe and equal one more time. All right, so here is the actual answer. It's hard to see, but the reason why this works for white is this queen on this diagonal actually aims for a loose rook for the moment. This is hard to see. I don't think I would find this in a real game, but it was found by someone. And as long as their queen is on d5, it makes this pawn on d4 stuck in mud. It can't go forward. There is no discovered moment. But with this surprisingly strong move, bishop h6, boom. We now have the other rook being able to come over to the e line. We can jump up to e5, and we are threatening, of course, the g-pawn. So how does this work? Well, let's just see the obvious. They take the bishop. Double attack on the queen and bishop. They have to back up. And now we are able to, because that bishop's no longer in the way, we are able to double up the rooks, and we are able to double up on the e line. We're threatening rook takes, right, with check, winning the queen. They back up, bishop e7, but now, bishop e6 rather, but now the difference is there is no queen on d5 blockading our pawn. Our pawn can go forward, and indeed, after d5, our queen is aiming at this loose rook, along with our battery aiming down the e line. This basically guarantees in this position, we gave up a bishop, but we're going to get our material back. We're going to get at least a bishop, because anytime our rook goes forward and makes a capture, this unleashes a discovered attack. So if they take with the pawn, again, we're getting this rook. And if they do something else, like, well, they could castle, right? Well, then we just take the bishop. Notice no matter what happens here, we've gotten our material back, and we have a very active and strong position. This might not be a safe place for the king, and we get our material back no matter what. These pawns are not great. This is a much better position for white. Again, plenty of game left perhaps, but that surprising bishop h6, very strong. Their other chance would probably be rook over, but now notice they lose the rights to casting over here. That might be a safe choice. But again, we're going to be doing the same type of stuff here with a little more force. Right? We have a lot of stuff piling up here. So that's pretty good. All right. We could always have backed up our bishop also, so we don't have to give our bishop up. And this is a pretty good situation. All right. Let's get on to the next position. All right, we got position number 2 set up, and this is a true puzzle, if you will. Not necessarily just a general position. This is an endgame. Everything's equal. White is on the verge of getting c8, getting a new queen, and might be curtains for black. But it is actually black's turn. Now they have a lot of stuff going on over here, right? And they got the pawn close to the end, but it's blockaded by the king. White, though, covers these last 2 ranks. Can't go to f2 with check. And if black doesn't do something by force, again, we have queen. We have c8 making a queen, giving check, probably winning. There are other ideas, of course. Queen can go to b4 check, and that's pretty strong too. For example, if the rook goes back, this check just picks up the rook and keeps on going. So this rook back to cover c8 doesn't work. Yeah, got to find a forcing move. Something to do here and keep the game going or try to win. Otherwise, white is about to win. So how does black proceed? All right, let's pause it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boop. All right. Well, this is not an easy one. And it involves my favorite things in puzzles, under promotion. All right, let's see if you guys found the first move. And rook f1 check. Excellent forcing move, check. There's only one move by white, so it's easy to calculate as long as you can see why this is a good move. They have to take with their rook. Now here comes the really hardest part. We could take with check with the queen. King would take. Okay, so we make a queen. King takes. But now what? Now it's black's turn. Do we have a forced win over here? No, we have to take this pawn on c7, right? Maybe we could do it with the queen or we could do it with the king. But this is not a forced win, and now maybe it's going to be a draw, probably a draw. But we're trying to win. So let's back it up. Rook takes f1. And I already kind of gave away some of the hint. Under promotion. And another idea, another tactic. It's called deflection. Deflection is when you make a move in chess and you force your opponent's piece to move where it doesn't want to move. Right now, their king on g1 is protecting f1. So if we took and made a queen, as we saw, their king could just capture. Here is the deflection. Oof. Hard to see unless you're thinking of under promotion. And that is queen h2. 2 or 3 exclamation points at least. Boom, check. Notice if the king tries to escape without capturing the queen, let's say they'll go king f2, now we just promote with a discovered check. All right, we're doing really good here if you're black, right? All right, so king f2 doesn't actually help. Now what if they take the queen? Very good. If we capture and we make a queen, boom. Well, you know, they have their queen, they still have their pawn. This doesn't force a win. Maybe you can still draw, of course. But there's actually this simple under promotion where instead, boom, you do this check and you fork their king and their queen. All right, so king move, knight moves, and guess what? Once you mention these two pawns, the knight and the king can help this pawn go along and should be able to win this game at this point. Excellent. I hope you guys found that. And even if you didn't, this is a good position just to do some work on. All right, let's get to position number 3. All right, we got position number 3 set up. And you always take a quick look at the positions. What is the best move here? It's white to play. Well, white's up 1 pawn, and they have a 3 versus 2 majority on the queen side. Very nice. Each side has the same exact pieces, 2 bishops, major pieces, rooks and queens. This bishop, though, on a7 is definitely not that good, not that happy, but admittedly, it will go to b8 and work with the queen, and it'll still be on a very strong diagonal, perhaps. So white definitely has a nice plus here. The extra pawn on the queen side and try to push it, and at some point, win the game this way with the extra pawn on the queen side. But this is actually going to take a while. And it's not saying it's not possible, but this is going to take some work. This game was actually from Tony Miles playing white, Grandmaster Tony Miles, great chess player. He is famously known for beating Karpov with black when he played a6 as his first move. He made Karpov not that happy. They call it going on tilt. Karpov might have been on tilt a little bit on move 1 with a6. Not that Karpov ever really goes on tilt. One of the greatest chess players of all time. But anyway, this is Tony Miles, Grandmaster playing white, and he played another Grandmaster from the United States. Tony Miles is from the UK. Walter Brown, Grandmaster Walter Brown, won the U.S. championships many times. Great chess player. Also famous for getting to a lot of time pressure, really getting red in the face and nervous as he was playing his games. But playing another Grandmaster, he's going to give a fight. So 1 pawn by itself doesn't mean it's going to be an easy game to win. So now we're looking. How does white win quickly? All right, pause it and play with that board. Get your hands on the pieces. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Well, if we're trying to end the game quickly, you have to look at forcing moves, of course. And right away, we can see we can take with check. This is called the Greek sacrifice or Greek gift. In general, when bishop takes on h7 or bishop takes on h2, this is usually what we call it. Many times it's followed up with a knight check. We don't have any knights here, of course. But the queen can go to h5 very quickly. But does this actually help us? That is the question. So bishop takes, king takes, and queen to h5 check. Well, there's only one move for the king. Boom. How to proceed from here? Maybe you even pause the video again and try to work from here. Is this sacrifice of a bishop for that h-pawn, is that enough? Can we get a rook behind the queen with, let's say, f4 or rook up over? Or can the rook go to c4 and over? Does this help win? Does black have enough resources to stop this? Are these pawn moves or bishop move or queen going to the side, is this going to save them? And the answer actually is Tony Miles thought further. And further means, boom, a second bishop sacrifice on g7, really tearing away the cover from the black king. Nicely done. And now after king takes, check, and this is important check. Let's say they back up. We do another check, go over, and rook up. And there's no way to deal with this situation. It is definitely game over, and this is the actual game. These were the actual moves. And Walter Brown did resign. Great double bishop sacrifice. Not always easy to see with that type of, position. Taking on g7, definitely not as easy to see as taking on h7. g7 is the hard one. Hopefully you found that. Keep working on those Greek sacrifices. Very interesting position. And you can also back it up to the point of here and see if you can figure out a different way to win, because you really can't. It's tough, but black can survive. All right, let's go on to position number 4. All right, we got position 4 set up, and stuff is happening. Spicy position. Is this from a regular game, a real game? Well, it's tough to say. How does this king get over to e7? This king's in the middle of the board with tons of pieces everywhere, all kinds of stuff. Oh my gosh. I mean, you could just show all the strength of all the pieces, and it's just a lot going on. All right, so it is a puzzle, though, and I will tell you, white to move and checkmate. So try to do this one first, actually not setting up the board. Look at this for a little while and just use your chess imagination. Get those chess muscles flexing. Maybe if you don't find it and then you set up the board, but try doing without the board first. All right, but let's pause it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So definitely, this is not easy. I mean, after all, it's white to move, but the rook is not protected. This knight is not super close to the action. It is next, covering one square in c5. That's nice. Got some interesting pawns here, but no pawn move right away. And black has tons of coverage in this position. I mean, just tons of coverage. Just things everywhere. Covering lots of squares. So does white, by the way. I mean, if you start adding up all the squares that white is covering, I mean, there is a lot of stuff going on here. How do we find the right moves, though? Well, you always look at these type of positions. These are the crazy spicy ones, and look at how many moves the king can actually do. Well, it can capture the rook, and it can go to e6. So it's got 2 moves. So we got to cover 2 squares, perhaps. How do we do that? Well, here the answer is boop. We actually ignore the fact that the rook is not protected for a moment, and we give a check. And that's because if they capture that queen, well, they can't take it with the king, right? Because it's supported by the knight, so they take with the bishop, and that frees up f6. And this is actually checkmate. Boom. But after queen d6, they don't necessarily have to capture the queen, right? We've taken away one of their moves, but they have the other move. What if they take over on e4? They took our rook. Now what? Well, here, these 2 pawns come into play. And are there any escape squares from the king from here? Well, can't go, can't go, can't go, can't go, can't go, can't go, can't go. So right now they have 1 escape square. Boom, they can escape. How can we give check and cut off their escape? Well, boop. Nice and easy peasy. Queen d3. Checkmate. So even though a lot's going on, that queen is the winner. You just got to figure out, with all that spicy possibilities, how to take away the escape squares from the king. All right, let's get to the last one. I'm running through these. I love these. All right, we got position number 5 set up, and this is from a real game. This is from a modern type of opening, just to let you know. And again, we always look at both sides of the board and try to see strengths and weaknesses, differences. Right away, we can tell it's white to move, and they have just an amazing bishop here. And not only does white have this amazing bishop, they have some pretty active pieces. All their pieces seem pretty active. King seems safe. And black, on the other hand, does not have communication between the rooks. This bishop's in the way, so they have what we call back rank weakness. And it is a little windy over here, but they do have a knight and a rook nearby and a bishop hopefully helping. And, kings can run. Can we take away those squares? Can we do something about it? White to move and win. All right, let's pause it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's get to it. So there are a lot of choices here, but we don't have a lot of time in the video, so I'm actually just going to show you the spectacular move. Boop. Rook f7. 2 or 3 exclamation points if you found that. That is just an amazing move. And you say to yourself, well, there's a lot of different moves you could play. What exactly does this threaten? Because if you're going to make a move, you got to do it by force. And this is not check, but it is with a forcing sequence, such as, let's just say you make a random move. If they don't do anything useful, it's checkmate. So it'll be checkmate in next move on h6 with the knight. They have to do something. Or even if they don't have that as a checkmate, let's just say they do something, of course. You always have rook here check. And with this bishop, king over, taking the check. And that's very nice, right? get them in the corner. So you can tell how this is just a very strong threat. But now they have one way to capture f7. Whoops. Two ways to capture f7. So 1, 2. And even if they don't capture f7, is there any other captures? Well, yes, there is. Bishop could take the knight. And maybe there's some other tricks. Maybe you can do something so the knight is not made. All right. So let's go through this. Boom. Capture. Well, go here. And whether it's the knight or the rook, the very next move is going to be knight h6. And checkmate. Right? And checkmate. Whoop, get over there. Checkmate. So no matter how they block, right, after we do rook e7, no matter what they do, because they can't move the king, it's going to be checkmate at h6. Alrighty, so rook f7, and then rook capture f7 for black doesn't work. All right, what about king takes? All right, good question. Well, unfortunately, that runs into an immediate checkmate in h6, because again, the pieces are just too active, and all we have to do is get that check. It covers the escape square in g8, so that's also a checkmate. So far, either capture is going to be checkmate. On f7, I mean. So now what about if the bishop takes f5? Well, now we have that other checkmate we talked about, check. And notice, when you set this up, it's like one of those windmill effects. That's what they call it, windmill checks, where the rook can keep moving and do checks and just capture stuff basically for free. But with the king having to be stuck in the corner, boom, there's nowhere for the king to run. All they can do is try to block, and it doesn't last for long in this position. It's still just checkmate. All right, so no matter how they capture, checkmate. So rook f7, just a beautiful, beautiful move in this position. Let's go back to the beginning of it, and notice this is very hard to think about. You're not really thinking about that. I mean, you're putting it someplace that's not protected. It could be captured not once, but twice. That's a tough one. All right, guys, this was Chess Coach Aaron. We went a little bit longer than I'd hoped for this video, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.